Much like the U.S. government puts its full faith and credit behind the dollar, I'd like to put my full faith and credit into last night's win for BYU. What a scene in Provo. What a game. And Jake Retzlaff, look, he wasn't great in this football game. The numbers, they're not blowing you away. Oklahoma State put up more points than anybody thought they would. They were rotating quarterbacks because Rangel got injured and Alan Bowman had to return and made some throws. And, well, it wasn't a great day for Oklahoma State throwing the ball. They finally figured out how to run it. And against this Jay Hill coordinated and Kalani Sitake defense, that's been a tough thing to do. Credit Oklahoma State, but credit Jake Retzlaff. Finishes the game 13 of 26 for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns, but all that mattered was the 4th and 7 conversion to Chase Roberts. And then later, the 50-yard touchdown to Darius Lassiter. I tell you what, Jake Retzlaff showed 35-yard touchdown. 35-yard touchdown to Darius Lassiter. He showed some sort of gusto in this football game because BYU had a 4th and 7 on their own side of the 35-yard line, trailing by 4, and they end up winning the game? I mean, you got to have some stones. And I was not high on Jake Retzlaff coming into the year because what did I have to be impressed with? Remember that BYU once upon a time went on the road and beat this team that also has a 3-letter abbreviation. It's called SMU. They beat them on the road 18-15 back in week 2. That was after our impressions of SMU were, they almost lost to Nevada. They're not SMU is currently a top 25 team in college football, according to the AP poll. They figured out the quarterback situation. So that win is holding up incredibly well. And then you have the fact that BYU, in a crazy game, thrashed Kansas State, beat Arizona by 22, finds a way to beat Oklahoma State. And yeah, BYU, I've been aboard this train for all of 10 days now. And let me tell you, it is chugging along the tracks to a Big 12 championship game berth. BYU's remaining schedule: at UCF, disappointing team. At Utah, oh man. November 9th is going to be a heck of a scene. A heck of a scene. Then they host Kansas, at Arizona State, and host Houston. Which of those games do you think BYU is going to be an underdog in? Probably at Utah. I imagine on the road, they'll still be a slight underdog at Utah, even though Isaac Wilson is, or whoever Utah's rolling out a quarterback. I don't know. It's not Cam Rising, and that makes Utah a pretty weak offense. Who are they going to be an underdog against? I don't think any of the other games. BYU's just finding a way. They're not blowing you away with box scores. They're not blowing you away with the flashy, explosive, dynamic offense. No, they're just playing good football. They're just winning football games. And Jake Retzlaff, he's not the best quarterback in the Big 12. I don't even think he's in the top 5. But he showed something on that drive. And for all those fans anxiously awaiting, you could have cut the tension with a rusty butter knife in that stadium because of the opportunity that had been presented to him. Halfway through the regular season, undefeated. Oklahoma State is struggling. And are we gonna do this? Nope, Jake Retzlaff's got you. March you right down the field and get into the end zone. One heck of a drive for the BYU Cougars. And it keeps their undefeated season alive right now. And I mean, I'm just saying, do they win all 5 of those games? Probably not. If Sam Leavitt is back by the time they play Arizona State on November 23rd, that's a game BYU could absolutely lose because with Sam Leavitt, Arizona State, good football team. Without him, not as good of a football team. They lost today against Cincinnati. I'll get to that in just a moment. But BYU looks like they are locked in for a 10-plus win season. I cannot see them losing 3 of their next 5 games. And Kalani Sitake and company have done a heck of a job. And Jay Hill, the defense coordinator, didn't have his best day. But when the offense is able to bail you out, that goes against what my initial concern was with BYU when they beat Kansas State, which was, hold up. Yeah, they played good defense, but they only moved the ball with a bunch of special teams craziness. And it was just a wild, hectic night game at Lavelle Edwards Stadium, and so was this one. But then you look at the offensive numbers, and they're over 30 points in each of their last 5 games. Since the offensive struggles, shall we say, at SMU, a game in which they found a way to win. BYU is showing you they can win a shootout. They can win something in between, like Baylor 34-28, or they can win a slugfest like SMU 18-15. They're just playing winning football. That's the best thing you can say about BYU right now is they're winning. They're just finding a way. It looks a little bit different every week. It certainly looked different last night against Oklahoma State, but they found a way to win the football game. So I salute them, and BYU fans, you are welcome, and our arrangement shall indeed continue. Elsewhere in the Big 12, Cincinnati, I tell you what, Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 and myself, neither one of us were high on Cincinnati coming into the year. I thought their preseason win total was a little bit high. I wasn't really impressed with them last year. I didn't know that they were going to be a different team this year. Well, all of a sudden, Cincinnati, after beating Arizona State, who admittedly were starting Jeff Sims, I don't know that Cincinnati's great. But at the very least, they're going to make a bowl game this year, and that's a step forward. You're not removing Scott Satterfield after this particular season. You have Colorado on the road next week, then West Virginia, at Iowa State, at Kansas State, host TCU. They're probably going to lose more of those games than they will win, but Cincinnati's having, quietly, a very nice second season in the Big 12. They're 5-2. They're 3-1 in conference play at the moment. And by the way, that lone conference loss was to someone that many, myself included, view as a Big 12 championship-capable team in Texas Tech on the road by 3 points. That's a coin flip, go either way game. So I'm impressed with the Bearcats. I'm impressed with the Bearcats, and I'm not putting them into that top tier of Big 12 teams like BYU, Iowa State, Texas Tech, who I think can win the Big 12. Kansas State is in that conversation as well. But I'm also not putting them as a bottom dweller. I'm not putting them as a head coaching vacancy that's going to come open in the offseason. This is just a quietly nice year. And while I was talking about BYU in the Big 12, I thought, you know what? That's a really solid win for Cincinnati, a game you should win. Jeff Sims is starting at quarterback on the other side. Gosh, I hope you win the football game, because I watched Jeff Sims playing. Arizona State needs to get Sam Leavitt back. Their bye week for Kenny Dillingham Company is coming at a really, really good time, because Leavitt was a 2 to 4 week injury. If he's back in a couple of weeks, he can only miss one game. He could miss a couple more games. Just kind of depends. But if Arizona State gets Sam Leavitt back at quarterback, remember, they already beat Utah. I think they could beat anybody in this conference. They could lose to anybody in this conference if Jeff Sims is there at quarterback, and heck, maybe even when Sam Leavitt is there. But if Sam Leavitt returns as the quarterback for Arizona State at some point this year, they can win games that before the season, many of you would have thought, they're not winning that football game, or they're not capable of beating this team. Well, I think Arizona State's pretty darn good. But Cincinnati, impressive. I salute the Bearcats. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.